just very briefly on Libya, because that was on my watch.
But this is not, again.
No,
this
but
is not
but I want to make a larger point because, you know, Gaddafi was a bad actor. Everybody knew he was a bad actor, and he threatened to kill his people by cockroaches. The United States was actually the supporter of European countries through NATO and the Arab League, which for the very first time came and said, we want to be part of trying to protect the people of Libya. Now, so I feel that that particular intervention, we had certain capabilities militarily that nobody else had, which we used to assist them. But, you know, the Emiratis were flying and the Jordanians were flying, et cetera. The problem, and this is where I think you make a really good point. The problem is, okay, Gaddafi's gone. His horrible prisons are emptied. What comes next?
Right. That's
what comes next?
And that's always a problem because there's always a vacuum. Because look, dictators don't allow institutions to flourish. So when you take the dictator out, there are no institutions.
That's right.
So but the question becomes, do you then say, let Gaddafi go ahead and kill his people because it's going to be hard afterwards? Or in our case, we thought Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. You're going to let that continue, or are you going to take him out? And then do the best that you can in helping people to recover. You have to recognize that it's going to be hard once you take the dictator out. But John, it's a little bit of a false choice to say, well, then just leave the dictator in place because it won't be chaotic. It may not be chaotic.
I guess what I'm saying is,
it may not be chaotic.
If we take
but
that
it might
role
be brutal
on,
against the people.
If we take that role on, can we sustain as a country? You know, when you think about the Soviet Union's collapse, they overextended and they got in an arms race with us, and they had all these satellites. Are we overextending America's power, especially militarily, when you talk about an $800 billion defense budget?
Let's assume instead of being in a podcast studio, we were in the Situation Room, or, you know, in the tank in the Defense Department, wherever we were. Right. Okay. And we're saying, okay, what do you see on the horizon? Well, North Korea is shooting these missiles over our ally, Japan.
Right.
China is trying to build up its blue water navy so that it can compete with us anywhere in the world. You've got, you know, the Russia-China relationship. It's tricky, but we have to watch it really carefully because we don't know where that might lead. We've got Iran, still a very bad actor, and probably in addition to killing their people, will cause some external problems in order to take people's minds off it. We have a lot of issues. So do we just sit back and hope for the best, or do we try to be positioned in enough places with enough support that we can be a good ally to those who are counting on us?
And you have to watch the potential rise of terrorism again. So you have a lot on your plate. But I would just say, should the United States be selective in the use of its military power?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Right.
After Afghanistan and Iraq, which we did for security reasons, not because we wanted to spread democracy at gunpoint, but for security reasons.
Although ultimately we were told that spreading democracy would make the world safer because freer countries would.
Well, I think if you
peaceful.
actually look at the record, democratic countries actually don't invade their neighbors. Democratic countries don't harbor terrorists. Democratic countries don't use weapons of mass destruction. So I think
they don't harbor them, but they have them.
Well,
you can't. It'd be hard to. But John, was planned in
but
Germany.
they're not aided and supported by
everybody.
And the always
that is a distinction.
But always try to look at the converse, right?
Yes.
Just because they have in some of these weak states terrorists among them, would you rather have somebody who's actually harboring them and assisting them?
Understood.
So that's the first point. The second point is that, yes, we need to be more selective. But I would be the strongest voice, as I know Hillary is, when Vladimir Putin decides to extinguish his neighbor. Should the United States really just step back from that and say, well, you know, that's kind of your business. After all, Ukraine's been a part of the Russian Empire and so forth. And there are some people in the United States who would say, not in Ukraine, let's do it in Des Moines. And I think that's the bigger threat, that the United States will not feel that the American people will not feel the pull to continue to be the place that people can look when something awful like that happens.
But is it then the difference between the first Gulf War, which is Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait and the United States forms a coalition and helps push him out, versus the United States deciding these bad actors, we really are the only country. It's not that other people don't meddle, but we're the only country that actively promotes regime change